So context is everything in terms of games review, and in no form of journalism is a just complete objective truth really obtainable. Everything is subjective. Everything is subjective to the person presenting it, to the person reporting on it, to the person viewing it. Everybody's collective experiences impacts how media is created and how media is consumed. My Elder Scrolls videos are no different. I will point you to a Total Biscuit video explaining the reason that context is everything in terms of games review. He does a really good job explaining that in a video, but I'm just kind of going to go past that because it should be obvious that in terms of a review, context is everything, which is why games review isn't considered all that reliable in most parts of the internet. First of all, I want to point out that I am not a Guild Wars 2 fanboy at all. Chu and I have both played a ton of Guild Wars 2 recently, and so far that's been our primary MMO of choice. So therefore, that is going to be our MMO basis to compare other MMOs to. It has a lot of features that we really like about it that we kind of hold other games on a comparative level to compare to Guild Wars 2. We're not saying that Guild Wars 2 is the best game or the example game to compare to. It's simply the one we have to compare to. We've also put some time into Rift, into Terra Online free-to-play. I've put quite a bit of time into Dungeons & Dragons Online and Lord of the Rings Online and World of Warcraft. And the traditional stand in one place and cast some hotkey spells format doesn't really work for me. That's what Elder Scrolls Online started with, but they moved away from that, and that is what I like. However, there are some things that I like about Elder Scrolls Online. There are some things I don't like about it. Some of those things that I don't like, yes, they're in Elder Scrolls. But just because that's our point of comparison does not mean we are fanboying and fangirling over the game or hating on Elder Scrolls Online. In fact, I've put a lot of time into constructing my opinion, and that's just what, I just have certain opinions, and I can't help that. And just because you love Elder Scrolls Online, apparently, or you think my opinions are invalid because I like Guild Wars 2, doesn't really matter. I come from a specific perspective, and that is how my review is influenced. It frankly doesn't matter if you disagree with me because we all have our own separate opinions, which is why you shouldn't rely on just one person's review to make your choice. However, at the same time, I would like to emphasize over and over and over again that I have not put out a video review on Elder Scrolls Online. None of my videos are to be taken as review, nor were they intended as review. We simply played for a few hours over the course of a couple different beta sessions and put out some video footage of our experiences. To me, the raw experiences and raw gameplay of a game is the most reliable basis to base your opinion off of. So I try to provide as much and as different gameplay as possible to you guys to base your opinions off of. Yes, we inserted our own opinions as the commentary. That is what we do. That is what most YouTubers do. But those are not to be held as fact or law, nor as anyone else's opinions. We offered some criticism. We pointed out some things we did not like. We pointed out some things we did like. If you watched just one of the 4 videos on its own, you're missing out on a whole lot, and you're losing a lot of context, especially considering the first 3 videos were recorded all at the same time. First of all, you have to realize where I'm coming from. Everything is just criticism. I had very high hopes for this game. Elder Scrolls Online sounded like a badass possibility. At the same time, I totally saw where it could have just been a huge money grab, which to some degree is what I see it as still. But I had really high hopes for this game. I wanted it to be awesome. So I'm critical of it. Anything you're excited for, you're more likely to be critical of. If you think being If you think being critical is just the same as being negative or hating on a game, get off the internet right now. Like that, being critical is how the world moves forward. It's being critical is a way of existing that is very important to living. If you think that just because I'm critical of something, I'm hating on it or bashing it or just don't like ESO, you're missing the point entirely. The fact is, I like Elder Scrolls Online, at least to some degree, and I want it to be better. I want it to do better. And so I'm critical of things. I'm most critical over things that I like the most. And frankly, again, being critical of something is not hating on it. If we wanted to make a video hating on Elder Scrolls Online, we would have just made a video talking about how much it sucks and how much you shouldn't buy it. Instead, the first two videos involved Chu talking about why it's so great and me and defending it against my criticism. And then I spent the second two videos talking about how awesome PvP is. Secondly, we are not huge hardcore MMO players. I've played quite a few MMOs. Chu, I know, has a history of MMOs. I just couldn't name the games like I could for mine. And we've put a lot of time together into Guild Wars 2. However, we are not huge subscription MMO fans. We don't have a lot of money to just sit there and pay $15 a month every time we want to play a game. And frankly, that's a ridiculous expectation. Hence why I don't support Xbox Live much. And so our comparison points are for a bit more other games. However, a lot of people who are disagreeing with my opinion and saying I'm a hater of Elder Scrolls Online seem to think that I need to go back and play previous Elder Scrolls games to get a better perspective. We have played previous Elder Scrolls games. Frankly, that's probably what we're comparing ESO to the most. And that's where it disappoints us the most. Chu has played the heck out of some of the Elder Scrolls games. I've played a tiny bit of Morrowind, quite a lot of Oblivion, and just the shit out of Skyrim. And I'm hoping to go back and do another Morrowind Let's Play and maybe go back and visit the first couple. I don't know yet. We will see. But we love Elder Scrolls games. ESO does not feel all that much like an Elder Scrolls game at times. You can certainly see the influence. Like, to me, if anything, it's influenced by Elder Scrolls games, but it doesn't fully feel there. And that is the feelings that we have given. We have played the previous games, and that's where we're coming from. And sure, Elder Scrolls Online could, to some degree, objectively be a great MMO for hardcore MMO players, if you see it that way, but they're targeting a much, much wider audience than just hardcore MMO players, and they need to give a reason for people to play the game. They have to have some sort of appeal outside of being a great in-game MMO, and I'm not seeing it. To me, especially when the game is going to cost you like $250 for the first year, $75 if you want to run around and play, all of the areas, get the Imperial Edition, get all of the stuff that frankly should be included in the game in the first place. You're spending a lot of fucking money for a game that doesn't necessarily scream, play me. And that is what I want from a game that's going to cost that much money. It has to scream, come play me because these reasons. It doesn't do it. The trailers are awesome. The trailers make it seem like it gives you something, but you get into the game and there's not much that draws you in. There's not much that compels you to play, in my opinion. I think it could do that, and the game isn't necessarily, the gameplay itself is no less valuable because of that, but you gotta convince me and other people who aren't currently interested in the game, you gotta convince them to come play, to come subscribe, and you gotta have something to do that, and I don't really feel like there's much to do that. Now, yes, people could argue that the PvP and the in-game stuff is actually really well done. I've seen some people say it's the best they've seen from an MMO in a long time, and that's a good reason to play, and I know that is a position that many hardcore MMO players take. However, I 100% disagree with the idea that you should have to rely on the end-game content to make a game worthwhile. That's what a lot of people have always done with World of Warcraft, and what I never understood about World of Warcraft. If I'm expected to get to the end game, you've got to make the game a lot more fun, as that is the purpose of the game, is to make the game fun. The end game is just stuff you do when you reach the end game. And it's never made sense to me for a lot of people to just completely ignore the actual core gameplay itself because it has good in-game. If the questing, if the storyline, if all that stuff doesn't just feel awesome, especially if it's going to, be a long leveling process like a lot of MMOs, you're not going to get me to play. Another thing to consider is I have beta tested this game for months and months. I started beta testing the game when the combat was traditional stand in one place and cast a spell if you want to attack. The game was completely broken when I started playing. There were a lot of things that just made it a pain to play at times. This has colored my perspective a bit. Now, I've seen, jump right on me and say, oh, that's a beta test, that's beta, it's just beta, you can't let the beta influence your opinion. Well, first of all, let me approach this from two different ways. The first way is that people, even in our latest videos, say, oh, it's only beta, it's going to be better. At this point, a game is public demo. The game comes out in like 14 days. If the game is still broken now, it's going to be broken when it releases. A beta is no less real when it's 14 days prior to release. It's no longer just a beta. It is basically a public demo that they're patching things up for. If I have disagreements with the core gameplay, the core things about the game, it being beta does not make up for that. Now go back to what I was talking about, having beta tested the game. A lot of people like to argue that shouldn't color my perspective. That's just beta. Obviously, that's the point of the beta. Again, context is everything. By playing through the beta so much, the game actually being a chore to play at times, because I was beta testing, that undeniably has affected my opinion. It is literally impossible for me to have not let that affect my opinion. It's literally not possible. That is how opinions work. And so yes, I understand and acknowledge that some of my opinion is colored by having seen the game in a very broken stage. But that also flops back to the fact that I have seen it come very, very far in not a long amount of time, over just the course of a few months. And I want to see it be just a little bit better. I've seen it come from completely broken and sometimes unplayable to actually pretty playable, though laggy at times. If anything, seeing the improvements that they have made would make me feel better about it, and it has. And again, a lot of my criticism comes from just wanting to see the game improve. I want to see it do well. I want it to give me a reason to just jump into it and play it all the time, especially if it's going to cost me, again, $250 for a year to play. As a poor college student, as someone who doesn't just have infinite money, and trust me, just having a job does not mean you can pay $15 a month and be happy with it for a game, when I can go pay $60 a month for another game and own it for my lifetime, as long as the console works, or my PC works, or my Steam account is active. Or hell, at this point, you think about games like Minecraft and shit, I can pay $15 for a game and be set for life. So why the hell am I expected to pay a subscription fee for a game that so far does not offer the content for a subscription fee, in my opinion? And yes, my opinion on the subscription comes from a core disagreement with just fundamentally disagreeing with the subscription model. I don't think every game ends up pay to win, and I have also talked about if Elder Scrolls goes free to play, it will be the end of the game, but not because of pay to win stuff, but because just the entire base will drop out. I don't think that a game is tied between a subscription model or free to play with buy to win. There's also the option of charging for the fucking game and then that being it. And you're going to yell at me for comparing it to Guild Wars again. But again, Guild Wars, $60 price tag. At this point, it's like $40-something price tag. No subscription fee. In my opinion, it's not pay to win. There may be some balance issues for in-game stuff as to why some people are arguing pay to win, but for the most part, they keep a lot of the paid stuff to just simply cosmetic purposes. And it works. And as far as most of us goes, for the hours and hours and hours we put getting to the end game, you can't pay to win. That's not how it works. I'm not going to argue with paying $60 for a brand new game. I'm going to argue with having to pay $15 as on top of that $60, and then $15 again when the next month rolls around, and $15 again, and again, and again, to access the game I already purchased. And then the idea that if I stop paying that $15, my game no longer works, despite the fact that I paid for it, pre-ordered it, and paid for it. But you're going to tell me it doesn't work because I'm not paying $15 a month. I just don't agree with that. Again, I want the game to do well. I am excited for it to some degree, and I have had fun with it to some degree, and I want to have fun with it. I still think the navigation bar at the top versus a minimap is absolutely absurd. It's what the latest Skyrim games have, Skyrim, exactly. It's what the latest Elder Scrolls games have included, but it makes it a huge pain in the ass to navigate anywhere, and half the time it hasn't even worked properly. There are many things like that where I just have criticisms of decisions made for the game, or just buggy features that will be patched. But if I don't point out criticisms, there's the risk of them not being patched. That's the point of criticizing games, ladies and gentlemen. My name is VinEqualsVox. Context is everything. Understand your role before you pay attention to review. And understand that none of my videos are, again, meant as review. See you next time.